There's a really important concept within business and the financial statements, the concept being liquidity. Now, what is liquidity? Well, there's a lot of ways you could think about liquidity, but really succinctly said, it is the ability for an asset to turn to cash quickly. Now, you've got assets that are highly liquid, right? Cash is highly liquid, and accounts receivable is an asset you have on your balance sheet that the customers are going to pay you, and they're going to pay you in 30, 60, or 90 days. And so that is going to turn to cash within that time frame. You've also got things like inventory that's also on a balance sheet that also is going to, you're going to have to sell it, and you're going to have to collect on it, but it's still pretty liquid that within 90, 120 days, you can turn that inventory into cash. Liquidity is the idea of how fast you can turn these set of assets that are going to be found on your balance sheet into cash. Now, why is that important for a company? Well, we transact in cash in a lot of ways. And so because of that, you've got assets that don't have a lot of liquidity, right? Buildings and property and equipment and intellectual property like patents, licenses, and trademarks. Those tend to be less liquid. The challenge if you've got a lot of assets that don't have good liquidity or you can't turn that to cash quickly is you're inflexible to market shifts. So if your company is exposed to any kind of regulatory macroeconomic pressures and those shifts happen to you, well, you still owe employees, you still owe governments and taxes, you still owe banks and the debt that you might have, and you're unable to meet those obligations. So liquidity is an ability to turn your assets into cash quickly that then allows you to pivot and fulfill the obligations that you have. Now, there's a metric on the balance sheet that's a pretty good metric here that highlights a company's liquidity. My encouragement to you will be to go to your balance sheet and maybe do a quick analysis on this. The metric that we look at is current ratio. And the current ratio, quite simply, is your current assets divided by your current liabilities. Now, I'm not trying to turn you into a CPA coming out of this video here, but a current asset is all of the assets that you have as a company that can turn to cash within a year. So what do you think a current liability is, right? Yeah, it's what you owe in a year. So if you have higher current assets and current liabilities, that means you have enough assets that you could turn to cash in a year to meet the obligations that you have in a year. Now, the average company's current ratio tends to be between, say, 1 and 1.5, meaning for every dollar they have in liabilities, they have a dollar in assets they can turn to cash. So current ratio as a metric of liquidity can give you a pretty good sense of the cushion you as a company have to be able to buffer from shocks or challenges that might hit you as a company, or to have enough financial resources to take advantage of the market opportunities, acquisitions, investing in your capital expenses or your infrastructure. Liquidity is a really important signal on how financially strong your company is to be able to meet the obligations that it has and to take advantages of the market opportunities that exist. So my recommendation to you is take a quick look at your balance sheet, look at current assets, divide them by current liabilities, and if it's above 1, you're able to meet all the obligations you have in a given year. If it's below 1, but you can turn your inventory really quickly and you're able to collect quickly from your customers, that's not necessarily a problem, it's just an indication of the industry you're in. Good luck in analyzing liquidity and understanding its importance, and talk to your manager about how you can best impact the liquidity of your company to better align your thinking to the strategic priorities of the company and further communicate your business and financial acumen.